Hello, Capricorn, and welcome to your October forecast. So, for the month of October, there's a big focus on your career, your life purpose, perhaps, and what you know and how you can disseminate information to people in your community by teaching or just sharing your wisdom. So, let's get into it. Your chart ruler right now is currently transiting through the third house of what you know and who is in proximity to you. So the third house in astrology is called a cadent house. The cadent houses are about what you know, your knowledge, and also the proximity to you and the people in your life. So the third house in astrology is your cousins, your extended family, your siblings, and your local neighborhood. This is also the house of speech, writing, and your mind. So when your chart ruler Saturn moved back into Pisces, it is finishing up this 3-year transit since 2023. Now, you had a little bit of a taste of what Saturn and Aries was going to be about when it moved from Pisces to Aries back in May. So from May to September, you were experiencing this shift, right? So a lot of Capricorn risings might have also moved in the last 2 years since you were having eclipses in your fourth and 10th houses. And now Saturn moving here is kind of solidifying maybe a future plan. If you haven't moved during that time, you might be thinking about it. You might be becoming independent from your parents, or there's some kind of breaking free energy as Saturn is in its fall in the sign of Aries. And as I said, Saturn is your chart ruler. This is also tied to your finances in some way because Saturn also rules your second house of Aquarius, and Pluto is retrograde here currently. So let's get into it. On October 4th, Venus in Virgo will conjunct the South Node at 18 degrees. Now, I wasn't going to mention this transit. However, in September, this ended up being a big transit for a lot of people since there were eclipses also around the nodes. If you think back to September 10th, the sun was conjunct the South Node. And then the very next day on the 11th, Mercury was conjunct the South Node. And Virgo is the area of your chart that is the house of God. This is another cadent house. It's exactly opposite your third house of Pisces. And this is the house where the topics that this is the house of God. And so, like I said, in the third house, this is what's known to you, and this is what's in your direct proximity. And the ninth house, which is exactly opposite the third, is what you don't really know and what's foreign to you. This is where studying comes in, traveling to foreign lands and foreign places. This is also the house of astrology and spirituality and religion. This is the house where you really learn about yourself through a divine order, like an institution, like a spiritual institution or a religious institution or not. But this is ultimately understanding yourself in like your divine purpose. So Venus moving through here, which is Venus is in its fall in Virgo. Venus is the ruler of your 10th house of career and also your 5th house of romance and pleasure and children. So you just might feel like you might feel inspired to learn something new during this time as Venus is transiting through your 9th house. However, as it's going through the South Node, you're releasing something's being purged, maybe an old belief system, or maybe some of you were tied to, let's say, a church or a temple, and you're like, okay, now I'm going to break free from that. Maybe some of you were interested in astrology and now you're like, I think I'm more interested in human design. Whatever it is, Venus conjunct the South Node is this purging, releasing effect. And also incorporating the topics of the other houses that Venus rules. Like I mentioned, Venus rules your 10th house of Libra, which is your career. So a lot of you might be pivoting careers at this time, or the 5th house of romance, sex, and children. On October 6th, not Venus, Mercury will ingress into Scorpio, and Scorpio is your 11th house of groups, friendships, and organizations. And so Mercury being here is you just maybe sharing some of those ideas with a group of people. Mercury rules your ninth house of Virgo and also your sixth house of Gemini, which is your work environment, your coworkers. So something that you've maybe learned over the last couple of months, now you want to disseminate to a greater collective with friends. Maybe you want to um, like impart wisdom on people vis-a-vis like a podcast or a Substack or a video series of some kind, but something that you've learned that has helped you in your journey, you want to disseminate to a collective. That's also the best way to use this energy. Now, on the same day, there is a full moon in Aries at 14 degrees. This happens at 11:47 p.m. Eastern time. Please adjust for your time zone. So let's look at the chart together. Okay, so this is the chart for the full moon. This is not set to a Capricorn rising. So just please keep that in mind as you're watching this. So every full moon is an opposition between the sun and the moon. And since the sun is at 14 degrees of Libra, so if you have your midheaven in and around this degree, this will be a completion of some kind around your family, home life, ancestry, and your career, as the moon is in Aries at 14 degrees. So those two topics are being at the forefront at this full moon. And the ruler of this full moon is Mars in Scorpio, which is transiting through your 11th house. So an Aries moon is about independence. This is about, following the warrior's intuition of doing something. This is cardinal energy. Both Libra and Aries are cardinal signs. So as a result of this full moon, you might be feeling compelled to take action, and the ruler of this full moon being Mars and Scorpio, I actually really love this energy, even though Mars is a malefic. Mars and Scorpio are very determined, ambitious people. And the 11th house in astrology also is about your aspirations and goals. So a lot of you Capricorn risings, which I would say a lot of Capricorn risings I know personally are very ambitious anyway. This could just be that you're locking into your future goals and aspirations. The shadow aspect of Mars and Scorpio is obsession and being too fixated on one thing. But ultimately, I do believe that at this time, this full moon, you will feel activated to take some sort of action. Now, some Capricorn risings, like I said, as a result of the eclipses being activated and Saturn transiting through your fourth house, some of y'all really might be like, this is the moment I need to move. Like, I actually need to move because where I currently live is not in alignment with my future goals and aspirations. So that is the full moon in Aries. And on October 13th, Venus will ingress into the sign of Libra in your 10th whole sign house. And this is a really beautiful transit for you specifically. Venus is in its domicile in the sign of Libra. This is at the top of your chart. So the focus of career and what you're known for is going to be at the forefront of your mind. Like I said, Venus is in its domicile. Venus is about values, worth, beauty, aesthetics in the sign of Libra, which is about harmony, balance, and justice. So Venus also rules your fifth house of Taurus, which is romance, sex, children, joy, pleasure. So some of you might be also prioritizing that as a part of your bigger purpose. On October 21st, there's a new moon in Libra at 28 degrees at 8:25 a.m. Eastern time. And again, this is your 10th house of what you're known for, what you are birthing out into this collective, out into this world. Now, this new moon is being ruled by that Venus in Libra, and it's co-present there. And so new moons are about new beginnings. This is a setting of a new intention. So some Capricorn risings might feel compelled to start something new in terms of your career. You might be launching a business at this time, or you might be interested in um, doing more actions in your community, for example, direct actions and community organizing, as your chart ruler is also in the third house of your neighborhood. But I really like this new moon. Um, it feels very supportive by that Venus in Libra. And then on the next day, Neptune will retrograde back into Pisces in your third house. So Neptune will exit your fourth house into the third. And Neptune has been transiting your third house since 2011. So Neptune and Saturn are finishing up their transits in this area of your life. So something about what you're sharing, what you're speaking, is again going to be the Saturn and Neptune in Pisces story. Have some Capricorn risings been inspired lately by speaking out more, being more present in the community, sharing your creations with the world? Like I said in the beginning of this video, a lot of Capricorn risings are trying to disseminate information and share their wisdom with others. On the same day, the sun will ingress into Scorpio. So the topics of your career now shift into your 11th house of friendships and groups and your long-term aspirations and goals. And on the same day, Mercury is in its official pre-shadow at 20 degrees of Scorpio. And the actual retrograde happens in Sagittarius on November 9th. On October 29th, Mercury will ingress into Sagittarius, which is your 12th house. So the 12th house is another cadent house. It's the unseen and the unknown. So if the third house is what you know and the people that you know close to you, the sixth house is like your daily rituals and habits, your coworkers, your pets. It's things that you need to do on a day-to-day basis to support your life. And then the ninth house is like foreign lands, foreign travel. It's leaving your home to learn something. The 12th house then is the most foreign. It is the house that you don't see. And so a lot of Capricorn risings at this time might be even inspired to learn about, spirituality, right? Because Mercury rules your ninth house of the house of God. You might be inspired to travel to a foreign land. And so the whole theme of October, again, seems like you're learning something, you want to share something. Mercury is in its detriment in the sign of Sagittarius. So ultimately, the shadow aspect of that, when Mercury is in its sister sign, so Mercury rules two signs, Virgo and Gemini. Mercury, when in Sagittarius, is more dogmatic, more preachy in nature. And I think ultimately Mercury being in the 12th house will have you just have a busy mind and thinking about the ways in which you might be self-sabotaging yourself with your own behaviors and thoughts. Mercury in the 12th is such an interesting energy because the 12th house is about isolation and resting and repairing. It's also the house of self-undoing. So a lot of Sagittarius risings just might be thinking of Capricorn risings. I'm just thinking about Mercury and Sagittarius, the ways in which maybe you're self-sabotaging yourself by your own calcified belief systems and your belief systems that like you can no longer carry with you in the future. So that is your horoscope for the month of October, Capricorn risings. I hope you have a beautiful month and I will see you in November. Bye.